Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. Today I want to talk about how to maintain a minimalist lifestyle. I think minimalism has been quite a trend over the past few years and a lot of people have decluttered their lives. Some of them moved on from minimalism, went straight back into shopping and never thought about it again, but other people wanted to actually experience some of the benefits of minimalism and not just of decluttering. So this video is for all of us who want to be minimalists and want to maintain that lifestyle for several months, years, maybe decades even. I think minimalism is maybe too often determined by the things we own, by the amount of stuff we own. But of course, it kind of makes sense because I think it started out that way. It's always been about living with less things, decluttering the things that you have that don't serve you anymore, and just getting rid of all of the extra stuff that you have that kind of clutters up your life, your mind, and just takes away some of the possibilities and some of the freedom that you could experience. But I strongly believe that minimalism is not just about decluttering. It's not just about having less and less. It's more so about having enough. It's about stopping overconsumption, not consumption in general. It's about stopping consuming for reasons that are not because we need something or we really want to have something, but just as a hobby or because other people do it, because the neighbor has something we think we need to have to impress somebody, things like that. I think minimalism is a lot more about reducing that desire to always have more than it is actually about having less and less. But of course, our belongings are important. And they also reflect our mindset, I think. I think we have the things that we think we need, and that comes down to how we think. What we think we need for a living, what we think we need to be happy, what we think we need to show off to other people. And another reason why our objects might even be some kind of a representation of the state of minimalism we are in is because they just do not walk in and out of our lives on their own. Yes, sometimes gifts do. We don't ask for them when we still get them. And sometimes things break even though we wanted to keep them. But for most part, we are responsible for bringing things into our lives and bringing things out of our lives. Now, if you're interested in the things that I own personally, that are my personal belongings, I'm going to link you my last video up here where I show you everything that I own. And because things do not walk into our lives on their own, we are responsible for them. And we can be intentional about it. And we can make decisions about the things that enter our lives and about the things that leave our lives. And I think to become a minimalist and to stay a minimalist, that is a very powerful tool and something that we should really use. And I mean, that's obvious. We all declutter to become minimalists. We all try to be mindful about what we buy, because otherwise, if we buy right back everything we've decluttered, we end up at the same starting point. But sometimes we think it's that obvious, and maybe it's still not. Maybe the things still find a way to come into our lives without us actually intentionally making the decision, or at least we feel that way. So I think to actually pursue a minimalist lifestyle and to stay minimalist, to maintain that lifestyle, I think you need to have reasons. You need to have reasons to declutter, to let go of things, and you also need to have reasons to not buy new things. You kind of need to want less, or at least you kind of need to get rid of that feeling of always wanting more. And therefore, I think it really makes sense to think about the benefits of minimalism, think about how minimalism can change your life. And I think that's not just when you start minimalism, but that's also when you try to maintain it. Think about the money you can save, think about the time you can save, think about the space you can have, think about the clarity you can have by just only having things in your life that actually have a purpose there. The other way around, these are all reasons to stop overconsumption, because by overconsuming, we are more stressed. We spend more money. We are maybe overwhelmed by the things. We maybe have a lack of clarity. We maybe just kind of feel like the things own us and we don't own the things. We are not in control of our belongings. And while many people just suggest you declutter on a regular basis to stay minimalist, and I think that's important too, I would suggest the most important thing is taking a close look at your shopping habits. Because if you can stop bringing things into your life that are not meaningful, you then also do not need to declutter them later. You don't spend the money in the first place and don't have to deal with like too many things to begin with. To get better at that feeling of having enough and being really mindful when it comes to buying new things, I can link you a video up here that I think is pretty good, has some good questions to ask yourself when you think about buying something, and to be sure that you can practice only buying the things that will actually be valuable in your life and not things that you want to declutter soon later. But even if you practice these things of like decluttering on a regular basis, paying attention to what comes into your life, being mindful when it comes to your stuff, having a capsule wardrobe, maybe cutting back on spending on things that you don't deem valuable in your current life, I think it is very important to say that it is not about the number of items in the end. Minimalism is not about like decluttering once and having a set of things and staying that way for the rest of your life. It is not even about only having less and less and less. I think it's totally normal as a person and as a minimalist to sometimes also have more things again, to sometimes decide that something you've made in the past was not the right decision and to change that, to sometimes even upsize instead of always downsizing, and to find out that things you've decluttered in the past might still be very important to you now or become important again, and to maybe rebuy these exact things you thought you'd never need again. So I think if your stuff is fluctuating, that is absolutely not a sign that you're a bad minimalist or that you are stepping backwards in your minimalism journey, that you have to push harder and declutter more. I think it's just normal for our stuff to fluctuate. It's normal for us to adjust to our current needs. It just doesn't make sense to hold on to items that you needed in the past but realize you don't need now. But it also doesn't make sense to hold on to a minimalist idea and preventing yourself from buying something that would actually be valuable in your life right now. I think a minimalist journey should always be sustainable. And it should for sure be sustainable in the way that you should be able to maintain it for a long time. And for myself especially, it should also be sustainable when it comes to the environment. And I think these really go hand in hand. And by that, I mean, do not declutter everything because you're overwhelmed one day and you think you just need to have less than 100 things to gain clarity. Do not take steps that you know you'll regret later, but also don't think you need to hold back if you really want to release things that really don't make sense in your life right now. Go on a path that you want to maintain for the future and not just for now because it's trendy, because you want to impress somebody. Because I do think that we cannot only impress people by owning expensive things, but we can also try to impress people by being the best minimalists and owning the least amount of things. And both of these things will not be beneficial in the end for us because it really comes down to having the things, spending our energy and time and resources on the things that make sense for our lives and not to do that for anybody else, to impress them, to have a facade of some kind and to pretend to be somebody that we're just not. So maybe my definition of minimalism is not the same as other people's definition of minimalism, but I think minimalism in the end more so comes down to being very intentional, being very authentic, and getting to know ourselves better, to know what we actually currently need and what actually gives us value, adds value to our lives, then it is about counting our things, having less and less, competing with anybody else to own less things, or just being a minimalist master who can live with less than 50 things. If that is what makes you happy, of course, that can be the right choice for you. For me, it's a lot more about being authentic and having the things that actually add value to my life, and allowing myself also to get rid of things if I realize they do not add value to my life anymore. And now I would be really interested in your best tip to maintain a minimalist life, or something that you've just recently learned and thought was very valuable to live a happy and fulfilled life in general. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos, I'm going to link you a video here and a playlist here that you can watch. And if you like this video, you can consider giving it a thumbs up, because that would really help my channel. And with that said, we're at the end of the video. I hope to see you next time, and goodbye.